YouTube and welcome to this tutorial series, three-part tutorial series on how to create this sort of castle stone Hogwarts corridor scene. This is the second part, second part, and I'm going to be talking about textures today. In the first part I did modeling and just some intro stuff about what I'm doing all this for. Today is texturing, like I just said, so here's my plan. I've got the intro, which I'm doing now, recap on the modeling, which is last week, so part of the recap. This is where we are at. In the last tutorial, I built this really super simple scene, of this corridor, which is eventually going to look like, I always close images. Okay, so that is eventually going to look like this, hopefully. Obviously there are some differences here, such as these pillars, which are straight up as opposed to arcing, and that's just because in the previous tutorial I didn't have enough time to, make them perfectly arcing without, taking like an hour or something, so I just skipped that bit. But let's get back on track. And there was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, in the last tutorial, which is here on YouTube, thank you to Gilbert Marom, who brought to my attention this tool that shows the screen what command you're using. That's basically this thing called screencast keys, and that is down there currently, that little box thing. So if you're going to user preferences, add-ons, type in screen and then turn on this 3D view screencast keys kind of add-on plugin thing, and then you press N, hopefully, without crashing Blender would be ideal, but I guess we crashed Blender all the same, so I'll just quit that. That's embarrassing. Just fire it up again, go into the tutorial corridor scene, turn on screencast keys. It can crash sometimes when you do that, so just save. Make sure you save all the time. Do we have screencast keys? No. Wow, that's... Hey, we regained reuse of Blender and start display. Okay, so thank you, Gilbert Marom. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, sorry. Also, just hope the other tutorial sound. This one, the sound was really messed up, but I'm pretty sure that I fixed it now. It was just a mic setting that I got horribly wrong. Yeah, I think that's all the recap. So now I just CG textures. Okay, so we're going to be using this site called CG textures to get our textures to apply to the scene. There's loads and loads of really great stuff on here. So many subcategories that you can just find exactly what you need. It may take some time to scroll because there's like several hundred different textures per subcategory sometimes, but the good news is it has everything basically. So I've already been through here and picked out the textures I'm going to use, which are, if I just go into my Blender file, go into tutorials and textures, castle floor and rock smooth. So the castle floor is going to apply to this floor, and rock smooth I'm pretty much going to put on just about everything else. So let's get started by putting this thing on the floor. So first thing about the floor is I got a whole load of stuff parented to it, but it is actually just this one plane to which I've applied this array modifier, so it kind of echoes down that way, and that's going to make putting the texture on kind of easy. Whoa. So if you're new to this, like I was, you're probably just going to think, okay, go into the texture, go into material, add a new material, make it diffuse. On color, you click that little dot, go to image texture, open up a texture. Let's just see where we are. Textures. There's nothing in here. Why is there nothing in here? There should be something in there. Well, that's curious. Alright, I'll just go go to my main database of textures. Okay, so here's all the rest of my textures. Like I said, we're just going to use a castle floor there, so I'll just put that there. And you think that'll be it. And when you go to, I don't know, rendered viewport, you'd see nothing. I mean, obviously we don't have a light in there, which I'm actually just going to stick one in now. Let's make a plane. That was GZ. Didn't come up over there, I don't know why. Scale X, like 5. GZ. Just bring it up to the ceiling. This is going to be like an invisible light of sorts. So what we'll do here is just make that a light. And we'll give it a sort of yellowish, warm, browny, orangey texture. So we're going to rendered, we can see our scene is now lit up. That is a bit too bright. Just take down the strength. That looks like it'll do. And the other thing you can do with lights is go into the kind of square thing here, scroll down, go under Array Visibility, and turn off Camera. Which reminds me, I'm working in cycles for this tutorial. I just use cycles now. So you've applied the texture to the floor and you're thinking, why is it not there? It's because you haven't UV unwrapped it. What you can do, if you can't be bothered to UV unwrap it, which is basically telling Blender exactly where to apply the texture, you can just go onto Box, I think, and under Vector, click Object. And as you can see, that has applied the texture there. You can just make it out there. And it works well enough, but for my purposes, it's not exact enough. You know, you can, I mean, it works fine there, I suppose, but I'm just going to do this slightly differently. So keep the UV, the vector coordinate onto UV, keep that as flat, and now we're going to UV unwrap that image. So here, under viewport shading, we want to go to texture. So here we can see the textures, and apparently I've already unwrapped these pillars. I don't remember doing that. That's weird. That's curious. I might have done it in the previous tutorial. Okay, so this thing up here, that kind of triangle thing, just click and drag that. Go into the UV image editor. And just open up Castle Floor. And there you can see it. So with the floor, tab into edit mode and press U. And here is your UV unwrapping options. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm just going to click unwrap because that is literally the easiest thing to do. The floor is literally just a square. So it's, you know, it's pretty easy. And then you can just move that around, make adjustments as you see fit. But that generally looks okay, I think. I'm just going to move it down X a little. And tab out. And that seems to look fine for me. Anyway, oh yeah, just one more thing. If I go into N, that brings up display stuff. I'm just going to turn off the grid floor and these lines because they always get in the way, I think. And that is the floor unwrapped. And now we can see that unwrapped. If we go into rendered mode, you can make out the floor pretty well, pretty nice. As soon as this has finished shading. But here's the thing, if we go back into Blender, back into my Hogwarts file, back into my shots file, back into establish, and open up this, it's got a slightly different look. This looks like flat, and actually maybe that's because I haven't, I just showed you. But anyway, starting to ramble, let's get back on track. You have only applied at this time the diffuse for the floor. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you have to do to be able to you know, make it look more realistic, and that's where this thing called Crazybump comes in. So I'm just going to hide text edit, go into applications, and there it is. Oh, it's down there. Crazybump basically generates different maps for you to apply to textures. So we've already got diffuse, which is fine, but we also want to have a look at, let's see, Blender. Where's my textures folder? Tutorials folder even. Textures, castle floor. So what this does is, how do I explain this? Blender Guru does it better, I think. Right, I'm just going to try and explain what I'm doing here. We've applied the diffuse, which is color. Basically, we've applied the color of the floor to the floor object there, but we also want to put in occlusion, a slight displacement, sort of reflections of the light, maybe just a little bit of glossy. So all that stuff we can do through Crazybump. So the first thing it'll do is show you these two options once you've opened up a picture, and you can kind of see the negative here. We want to go with this one, I think. Doesn't really matter in the end, but just open that up. Whichever one looks like the floor is coming up at you as opposed to shrinking away. So here we go. We have the Crazybump here, 3D preview over here. Oh man, I stopped it. So what this is the normals, and this map does it kind of puts a very slight distortion or displacement onto the floor, just some really fine detail. So you can play around with these, and the higher you turn up the detail, the more detail you're going to get. You can just play around with that, really. I'm actually just going to take this back into solid because my Mac is slowing down a bit. And we're just going to save the normals to file, textures. Okay, yeah, norm. Next we have displacement, which is a sort of big time displacement. This is going to give the impression that the tiles are actually separate tiles, not just one flat object. So for this, we're just going to adjust the displacement map settings a little by turning up the depth, the enhance, soften, which is kind of cool. Just normal soften a bit, not too much, but something like that. So save the displace to textures. Occlusion is like it kind of tells Blender where the shadows go, in a manner of speaking. So just save that. I never really mess around with that too much. Specularity. This is quite fun to play around with. It's where white is basically where shadows. Sorry, no. White is where reflections will be. Dark is where no reflections will be. So that looks pretty cool. You don't want too much mind because we're in a, just bear in mind the scene, we're in a castle where there's not going to be too much specularity unless it's like, I don't know, underground and there's water on the floor or whatever, so you can save that. Diffuse, we've already dealt with diffuse, we've got our diffuse kind of sorted out here, but there's a bunch of stuff you can do with this, like shading, 3D highlights, color correction, but I don't normally mess around with that too much, so just quit Crazybump there, Command Q for quit. Whoa. Now we can set about applying some of these textures, so just grab this, and what is normally the timeline, we're going to turn into the node editor. And you'll see here, we already have some of the nodes set up for the floor. This is what we did over here. So we have texture coordinate UV to the image, to the diffuse, to the surface. That means the coordinates where the image is applied goes to the surface. This is the image itself, and this is the type of I don't know, texture, I suppose, that we're applying. So we're applying a diffuse image to the surface by these coordinates. So we're going to add in the others now. So I think what we do is just, we don't really need this end one, to be honest. So let's open up, if we just go into tutorial, textures, hey, Where are they all? Something's going wrong here. Something's very fishy. And that is maybe the corniest thing I've ever said. That's something about tutorials. You say stuff you would normally never say. Okay, I'm just going to make a new folder here because it doesn't seem to be reading that other one. I'm going to call this tutorial maps. I just copy and paste those in there. I hope that Blender can read them from there. It should be able to. I don't see why not. Tutorial maps. Here we go. So we'll do the normals first. The very fine displacements. So I'm just going to zoom right in there. So we got a shot of our extremely blurry floor here. With the normals, you want to add a vector normal map, I believe this is the right one. Put that into the color and rechannel that out into displacement. And that's normals dealt with. I'm pretty sure that is all there is to the normals. There might be a math node that goes in there somewhere. Converter and math. Hogwarts corridor, the actual corridor. I'm going to check on all the nodes just to make sure I'm on the right path here. Blender is freezing again a wee bit. That's why we wait for it. The spinning wheel of death there. Okay, here we go. Open that up. Just get at the nodes. Nah, okay. Back to tutorial. Solid mode. Rendered mode. We don't need that. So the normals map texture goes straight into normal map node to displacement. The strength is how much you want that to take effect. I don't really want that much, so 0.3 will do me fine. Zoom out a bit. This is going to get pretty complex, I have to say. So the next thing we're going to do is add in... Hey, where's my screencast keys gone? I guess I have to turn that on and turn that on again. Start display. Oh, stop display. I'm going to turn it on here. No? Okay. So my screencast keys is up there now. Just to let you know. Let's see. Okay. We're going to do the occlusion now. So just going up into movies, tutorial maps, occlusion. This you add into the main mix simply with a mix shader, I believe. Oh. Hey, come on. There we go. Color. You don't want this to be too big, so just like 0.05. So we have some very subtle stuff going on there. We don't want too much. Next, let's do the specularity. Oh, I completely put that in the wrong place. Just always like doing this one. It's quite easy to go overboard if you really like doing this, but you know, such is fun going overboard. Where's my movies folder? There it is. Tutorial maps, spec. This you plug into a glossy shader, so that should be in here. There it is. Which in turn goes into another mix shader. Make sure it goes into the bottom there. Actually, no, hold on, doing this bit wrong. Glossy goes into down there just on its own, while this image texture spec map goes into the factor. Oh, just to explain what we've going on here, very slightly, just to get a few highlights of shadows in. Next, we've got the specularity coming in. There's a glossy going to a mix shader, and it's being mixed with the diffuse. And this spec map up here, the specularity map, is telling it where to sort of apply this glossy. It doesn't want to move. And just by, if I just zoom in a bit here, you can see by, I think, making this multiply, you can change the factor there to you know, get a more precise control of how much glossy you want. So if I put that up to 1, that's higher. If I put it up to 0, that's not at all. So I'll just leave that at 1. So our floor here is looking okay for the moment, it seems. And here's the last bit, the slightly tricky bit. Falls apart, of course. We have a pretty decent scene here, but what we do with the how do we do this one? We go to displace. Okay, so for the displacement modifier, you add a displace modifier here, I think. Do you? Is that right? Is that correct? Yes. No, wait, hold on. It's 2, isn't it? 2 displace. I'm not convinced. Okay, this is slightly experimental, but go into the first displace, and here you want to add a new texture. Make sure and open up. No, it's still not working. Okay, open up the displacement map and do the same for the second one. So, you know, image and movie, open movies, tutorial maps, displace, open that up, and then you can go back into the here. I think no, something's not right here. Something is, it's been a while since I last did this, which is why I'm struggling ever so slightly. Okay, I'm just gonna go into the original Hogwarts corridor here. Wait, that's Hogwarts Castle. Okay, well, you get to see the castle. I'm gonna look at the... Nope. Okay. Never mind. Okay, castle isn't giving us displacement maps. I guess I didn't do them for that, so I'll go into the corridor instead. Let's just see what's in here. And we're waiting for it to open. There we go. Okay, so we have 1 displacement, texture, UV. Oh, there's just 1. That's it. Really? Okay, I thought there was more. Okay, open recent tutorial corridor. So all you have to do, as it turns out, is, well, first of all, you don't need 2, you just need 1. And I guess now you play with these controls here to get the you know, the desired sort of displace effect. But the first thing you'll notice is that this is not in the right place. There is no displacement going on according to the picture. That's because we have to subdivide. So what we'll do is add a subdivision surface, put it above the displacement map, I guess, turn up the views, and get this crazy stuff, and then we turn the strength off just to see where we're at. Nope, that doesn't seem to be doing the trick. Apply the array. No, still nothing. No. Maybe if I highlight all and go and just hit T, bring this up. Remove doubles, maybe? Yeah, that's not making too much difference. Am I sure I've done this right? Go into textures, displacement 3. This should be working. Something's going on here. Oh, hold on. Z, maybe UV. Yes, maybe normal. UV map. Oh, UV map. Maybe. Okay, this is very strange. I've forgotten how to do this, so just gonna go into Hogwarts corridor here. See how I did it before. There's lots of flicking back and forth today. This is probably going to be quite a long tutorial. I guess what am I running on, 20 minutes or something? 20 minutes in? Half an hour? Don't know. Direction Z, UV, render 2. So I'm looking at the wall here. I'll just turn on screencast. So I'm looking at the wall. There's a slight subsurf. Direction Z, texture coordinates UV, mid-level 0.5, strength 0.2. Looking at the texture for that, I have image and movie, castle, wall displace. Huh. Well, I guess that's what you do. Just something funny going on with the tutorial corridor here. Apparently. Right, well, I'll just get back to where we were before. So that was 0.2. Apply the array, subsurf, move it up, put 2 views on it, go into tab, highlight all, hit T, remove doubles. That removes double thing basically gets rid of, what's it do? It gets rid of what was I saying? Ooh, this seems to be working actually. I'm just gonna subdivide it manually here a couple times, just bring up T there. Okay, we are starting to get some results here, as crazy as this looks. I'm gonna flip it by the X 19. Whoa, okay, never mind. Strength 2, why is it a strength 0.04? That looks much better. Oh, I see something has gone wrong here. So it's 0.01. Okay. And then just hit smooth. Okay. Well, as you can see, we now have our displacement here. But we have somehow got it upside down. Or not we, I have somehow got it upside down. So here is the shape of the floor. That's looking fine, but for some reason it's upside down. And I can't flip it because I've got, stuff parented to it. Which is a bit of a nuisance, I suppose. So I'm just going to ignore that, hope for the best. I think here I'm going to pause the tutorial and just... Should I pause the tutorial? Or have I shown you everything you need to know? Let's see, where are we at? I showed you Crazybump, texturing, UV unwrapping, nodes. Hey, I seem to have gotten through everything I need to show you. Okay, I'll just go into rendered viewport for a moment here. Just so we can see the results of our masterpiece floor. There it is, just slowly coming up. That is essentially how to apply decent textures. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other ways to do it, but that's the method that I most commonly used. I picked that technique up at blenderguru.com by, what's it called, Andrew Price. He was the one who figured that out, the whole Crazybump secret. As our floor, it doesn't look too bad. I might just turn up the spec. By spec I mean specularity a little bit. Factor 1, whoa, it's supposed to be quite high already. If I turn this up to 10, does that get ridiculous? Add, maybe? Whoa. 1. Nope. Mix, just normal mix. 10. 0. 0.1. Okay. With the spec, which feeds into the mix node, which acts as the factor for how much glossy you want to see, that controls a mix shader. Just go with mix. The second color can be whatever you want. It doesn't appear to make that much of a difference. actually factor 0.1, so that's how much glossy you want. As you can see, it's actually taking effect now. So you don't want multiply here, you just want basic mix. 0.2, that'll do. Okay. Did I already make the fireballs? No, okay. Just one more thing I'm gonna do is create these. I should have done this in the last one. Don't know why I didn't. Creating these spheres. Maybe I did, and maybe I didn't just save or something. Just create some spheres into these. Apply a fireball. Just make it a mission. Make it a sort of bright orange color. Is fire normally that color? It's more of this way, I would say. More of that. Just turn off ray visibility for camera so the cameras can't see it. Duplicate GY. Control J. Duplicate again. GX. Shove it down. Just going to GX. GX again. And you just want to put these fireballs right above the fire pillars here. And if you missed the last tutorial, these kind of pillar things, these are going to hold fires, like in the original Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone / Chamber of Secrets. Do you remember they had those things, like kind of lantern things? Well, these invisible balls here are going to throw the light caused by the flames. That was just a lighting element I should have added in the last episode. You can see them there having their effect on the walls, and that's going to look real cool once the walls are textured. But for the purposes of this being on YouTube and the internet, I'm going to stop the tutorial here so you don't have to watch me do all that other crazy stuff. I've already shown you all the techniques with the floor here. So between now and the third tutorial, I'm just going to texture everything else. So for part 3, I can just get straight on to showing you what's part 3. Intro compositing nodes. So render settings. Okay, so compositing and rendering the scene to make it look even more photorealistic. So that's going to cover things like if you want fog or depth of field, what render settings you want to have, what different render techniques you want for optimal performance, all that stuff. So that's all for today. Tune in again for part 3 when it comes out. I'll see you next time.